Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in again. Today's segment is really short. It's just going to be about inconsistency. On the one hand, you've heard me talk a couple times about personal freedom and debt and how a democratic society cannot be strapped in debt because you, as an individual citizen and person of that society, cannot be free if your decisions are constantly being affected, discouraged, or otherwise controlled through this mountain of debt, right? And because of the advertising machine and this huge arm of consumerism going on right now, we're all kind of addicted to consuming and getting our self-worth and a lot of other things from shopping and from consumerism and from spending money, which keeps us plugged into the system, which keeps us buying, which keeps us ultimately miserable. The inconsistent argument here that I want to talk about is religion, right? Churches and religious institutions in the United States don't have to pay taxes. Now, I'm not suggesting they start. Actually, that's a bad idea. A lot of people who are non-religious, particularly nowadays, are talking about how they should have to pay taxes, particularly seeing, a minute Super Bowl ad about Jesus. I think that sparked a lot of wow, if they can afford $7 million for 30 seconds, they should have to pay taxes. But I think that kind of gets into the misery loves company argument, right? It's kind of a toxic argument. It's like, well, I have to, and I can't afford a Super Bowl ad, so they should have to. And I think that's besides the point, right? I think if we go back to when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution and when they talked about religious freedom, they created provisions through a couple of the amendments. I'm not going to bore you with the specifics, but they created a couple provisions to keep religion and state separate. Eventually, with the idea that religious institutions can't be taxed, right? You have to remember at the founding of our country, there actually were no taxes. A great book to read on the subject, actually, is tangentially related, but he covers it in there, is Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Not only did he have a hand in creating one of the first fire departments in America, one of the first Ivy League, Penn State, one of the first Ivy League universities, but he also had a hand in debating and talking about the first ever income tax and taxation system in America. He talked about at the time how actually the super wealthy and the very large landowners at the time were negotiating and trying to pass laws that would allow the populace to be taxed, but essentially allow them and their heiresses and their inheritance descendants to be exempt from tax. So that's besides the point. What I'm saying is, if we've agreed, and throughout all America it seems like we agree, other than the people right now who are kind of in that misery boat, if we all agree that religion should be free from the government and government should be free from religions, and ergo to keep them separate, we should ensure that the government can't tax them or send them into bankruptcy, then my question, or my whole point of this inconsistent argument, is then why is the government allowed to tax us? If a democracy, even a representative democracy, depends on people being free, making informed, educated decisions, then why are we allowed to be taxed and still considered free, but religious institutions are not allowed to be taxed, and that is to ensure they are allowed to remain free from governmental control, influence, or otherwise corruption? Inconsistent arguments. Doesn't make any sense. Thanks for tuning in today. It's great to see you all. You're brilliant, you're beautiful, and I really am glad you're alive. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.